Сам, если UFC тебя попросят провести бой с Илией Топурией в 70 килограмм, согласишься или теперь только 77?
70, я думаю, это должно быть слишком хорошее предложение, чтобы я опять начал вес гонять 70 килограмм, так как я уже не молодой тоже в этом виде спорта, и каждая весогонка забирает тоже годы здоровья, и уже не так легко, как раньше вес гонять.
Islam Makhachev just sent shockwaves through the MMA world with a massive message to Dana White. And it involves money, Ilia Topuria, and a fight that fans are dying to see.
Hey Dana, I want a money fight, give me my wager, woo!
The double champ Islam Makhachev has just made his intentions crystal clear about the Ilia Topuria super fight. But there's a major catch that Dana White needs to hear. And trust me, this changes everything about this potential matchup.
I know UFC want to do some big fight in White House. Which fight is gonna be bigger than this? I know he's gonna fight soon. He want to fight in White House, and I also want to be there. If UFC want this fight, we can do this. If I have to cut 155, then I might have to pay for this.
Let's get into it. So here's what went down. Fresh off his dominant victory over Jack Della Maddalena at UFC 322, where Islam became the new welterweight champion and solidified himself as one of the greatest fighters of all time, the conversation immediately shifted to one name, Ilia Topuria.
The winner by unanimous decision and new undisputed UFC welterweight champion of the world is Makhachev.
Now, Topuria has been calling out Makhachev for months. He even dismissed Islam's performance as boring right after the fight, continuing to stoke the flames of this rivalry that fans desperately want to see settled inside the octagon. But here's where it gets interesting. During the post-fight media scrum, Islam dropped this bombshell about cutting back down to 155 pounds to face Topuria. It would have to be a very good offer for me to start cutting back to 155 pounds, because I'm not young in this sport anymore, and every weight cut takes years off your health. It's not as easy as before to cut weight.
Сам, если UFC тебя попросят провести бой с Илией Топурией в 70 килограмм, согласишься или теперь только 77?
70, я думаю, это должно быть слишком хорошее предложение, чтобы я опять начал вес гонять 70 килограмм, так как я уже не молодой тоже в этом виде спорта, и каждая весогонка забирает тоже годы здоровья, и уже не так легко, как раньше вес гонять.
Let me translate that for you. Islam is basically telling Dana White, show me the money, or this fight isn't happening at lightweight. At 34 years old, Makhachev has made it abundantly clear that those brutal weight cuts to 155 are behind him. He feels stronger, faster, and more comfortable at welterweight. And honestly, can you blame him? He looked absolutely dominant against Jack Della Maddalena, controlling every aspect of that fight for 5 rounds. Now, as expected, Dana White didn't stay silent for long. The UFC president took to Twitter shortly after Islam's comments and posted, "Now this is classic Dana White, right? He's putting the pressure back on both fighters without committing to anything. He's essentially saying, you both talk a big game, but who's willing to make the concessions to make this fight happen?" What's fascinating here is that Dana has been playing both sides. Before UFC 322, he was hyping up potential matchups for Islam at welterweight, specifically mentioning Kamaru Usman as the greatest welterweight of all time, even though we all know that's debatable.
I wanted to talk to you. Obviously, you had a big week at the UFC. Some crazy stuff went down. With Ilia moving up to lightweight, vacating the title. You weren't able to announce it then, but is it safe to say that Ilia Islam is the fight that we're sort of working towards, or could he be fighting?
There's still other possibilities, so there's a lot of shit going on right now.
But now that Islam has thrown down the gauntlet about money, Dana's in a tough spot. Does he pay Islam what could be one of the biggest purses in UFC history to go back down to 155? Or does he try to convince Topuria to move up to welterweight, where he'd be at a significant size disadvantage? And then, there's the matter of precedent. If Dana pays Islam a massive amount to cut back down to 155, What does that mean for future champion versus champion fights? Does every double champ now get to demand astronomical sums to defend in their original division? You can see why Dana might be hesitant to set that precedent.
What's up, my brother? Good to see you. Thanks for coming out. How you feeling?
We're in the big house.
Let's talk about the elephant in the room, the weight class issue. Islam has been very clear. He's done with 155. He stated in the press conference that he feels better than ever at welterweight, saying, "I feel more powerful, more confident when I strike, when I move. I can control anyone on the ground, and I never felt like that before."
Я уже не молодой тоже в этом виде спорта, и каждая весовая гонка забирает тоже годы здоровья, и уже не так легко, как раньше весами.
The man just became a double champion at Madison Square Garden, matching some of the greatest achievements in UFC history. Why would he go backwards? And let's be real about what those weight cuts were doing to him. Islam talked extensively about his brutal training camp for UFC 322, mentioning it was the hardest camp of his life. He spent 3 weeks in the mountains of Russia at an Olympic training center, specifically working on gaining weight and becoming stronger. On the flip side, Ilia Topuria is the current lightweight champion and has been calling for this fight since he won the belt. But here's the reality check. Topuria is not a welterweight. Even at lightweight, there are questions about whether he's cutting too much weight. Multiple analysts have pointed out that if this fight happens at 170 pounds, it wouldn't even be competitive. Islam would have a massive size, strength, and reach advantage. It would likely look even more one-sided than what we saw against Jack Della Maddalena. Think about what Islam did to Jack Della Maddalena, a natural welterweight who many considered one of the most dangerous strikers in the division. Islam completely neutralized him, controlled him on the ground for almost the entire fight, and made it look easy. Now imagine that same Islam against someone who's naturally even smaller. It wouldn't be fair. There's also the matter of legacy and health. Islam is 34 years old now. In the fight game, that's not old, but it's definitely on the later side of a championship run. Every brutal weight cut takes something out of you. Your body doesn't recover the same way it did when you were 25. Islam has accomplished everything there is to accomplish at lightweight. He defended that belt multiple times, broke records, and cemented himself as one of the division's all-time greats. Why risk his health and potentially diminish his legacy by going back to those grueling cuts? Islam Makhachev has drawn his line in the sand. If Dana White and the UFC want him to cut back down to 155 pounds to face Ilia Topuria, they're going to have to come with a massive offer. We're talking potentially the biggest purse in UFC history.
You said that you're ready to go up a division. There's a tweet from Ilia Topuria that he can go up the weight and he can beat you with no problem. What do you think about that?
Не знаю, еще столько соперников, и все хотят меня там в первом, во втором раунде финишировать, все говорят об этом, но я же сказал, сделайте 70 килограмм, заходите в клетку и посмотрим, кто кого финиширует.
There's all these opponents, they all say they want to finish me in the first or second round. I already said, if you can make 155, you can get into the cage. Let's talk about it then.
Firstly, what do you think about that?
Oh, my friend and training partner has just got to the UFC. So, like, he's potentially like 2 or 3 wins away from like a title shot. So the thing is, if I'd never won a title, I'd never touched gold before, we would have to fight. But now I've done it, I would be like, I'll vacate it and he can have his time.
You know what I think about that. Yes. Before you even ask me. I hate that, you know. Many friends, relatives, name it, have all fought each other before. You know, it doesn't determine whether you are friends with somebody or you hate somebody. you're competing against them to see who the best is, but that's his decision, you know, to even think about vacating it because you don't want to compete against somebody is absolutely insane, but he's a grown man. That's up to him.
Dana White drops a massive bombshell to Tom Aspinall and his father after he wants to leave UFC. Tom Aspinall's first undisputed heavyweight title defense ended in absolute chaos. But here's the kicker. Instead of supporting his champion who just suffered a horrific eye injury, Dana White dropped a massive bombshell at the press conference that has the entire MMA world in an uproar.
A lot of energy in this fight, so I'm a little bit disappointed, but this is the sport.
Cyril, you were fighting a wonderful first round.
From the brutal double eye poke that ended the fight, to Dana's shocking comments at the press conference, to the MMA community's explosive reaction UFC 321 Abu Dhabi, Tom Aspinall, the newly crowned undisputed heavyweight champion, is making his first title defense against the crafty Frenchman Cyril Gane. The fight was competitive. Gane was moving well, using his footwork and technical striking. Tom was loading up on power shots, showing new techniques we'd never seen before, including a high kick that surprised everyone. Cyril Gane's fingers, not his fist, but his extended fingers, meet Tom Aspinall's face. And we're not talking about a little poke here. This was a double eye poke. Both eyes, simultaneously. The replay shows Gane's middle knuckle going under Aspinall's eyelid and along his eyeball. The left eye poke was particularly deep. Tom immediately signals to the referee, clearly in distress.
Cyril Gane in black. Tom
Cyril Gane. Moving into Aspinall. Oh, nice.
Aspinall goes hot.
And Cyril Gane was ranked higher than Tom.
Quick jab from Gane.
I don't love the spinning.
Leaky here early.
Is he scared? The wolf.
Look like an eye poke there as Gane.
He's saying, I can't see. I can't see. The fight is waved off. Tom Aspinall cannot continue. The crowd, who paid big money and flew in from around the world, starts booing. They're booing the champion as he's lying on the canvas, unable to see out of either eye. Tom, clearly emotional and confused, grabs the microphone and says, "What are you booing me for? I got double eye poked."
I know you want to go and get medical attention, but talk us through your thought process and what you're feeling right now.
Guys, I just got poked knuckle deep in the eyeball. Why are you booing? What am I supposed to do about it? I didn't do the poke. I can't see.
He's then rushed to the hospital, where he goes in and out for days, with his vision still affected 4 days later, according to reports. Now here's where it gets absolutely wild. While Tom Aspinall is being rushed to the hospital, unable to see, Dana White steps up to the post-fight press conference. And what does he say? Let me read you the exact quote. "I can't make people fight. You can't make someone continue if they feel injured." Gane had Tom bloodied up, and Tom didn't want to continue in the fight. Only Tom knows what happened. Could he see? Couldn't he see? Only he knows.
And you definitely can't make somebody continue if they feel they've been injured. Only Tom knows what happened. You know, could he see? Couldn't he see? Could he continue? Only he knows that.
Did you catch that? Tom didn't want to continue in the fight. Not Tom suffered an illegal strike. Not Tom was fouled with multiple eye pokes. Just Tom didn't want to continue.
Tom didn't want to continue in the fight, so.
Not Tom was fouled with an illegal strike, multiple illegal strikes.
Dana then went on to praise Cyril Gane's performance, calling him incredible and dominant. He said the situation was a pain in the ass, but that he would rebook the fight. Ariel Helwani absolutely exploded online, calling Dana's comments irresponsible and embarrassing for the UFC. He pointed out that Dana didn't call out Gane once, even though Gane caused the fight-ending foul. Instead, Dana seemed to protect Gane while throwing his own champion under the bus. Ariel Helwani brought up an important point about intentional versus unintentional fouls. He said, "This notion of intentional versus unintentional is the stupidest thing in sports. A foul is a foul. You don't see NBA referees converging to ask if a player meant to commit a foul. The ball just goes the other way.
This notion of intentional versus unintentional is the stupidest shit in sports. Period. Period. You don't hear it anywhere else. Let me ask you guys a question. Yesterday, I'm watching the New York Knicks against the Miami Heat. Crucial juncture of the game. Knicks are down like 8 or so. They have the ball. Josh Hart gets called for an offensive foul. Illegal screen. Do the referees converge and say, like, did he mean to do that or did he not mean to do that? No, a foul is a foul. Ball goes the other way.
And he's right. Whether Gane meant to poke Tom in the eyes or not, it's still an illegal strike that ended the fight. Michael Bisping, a former UFC champion who famously fought with one eye, defended Tom's decision. He said, "If you can't see, you're allowed to say you can't see. Tom is the champion of the world. He doesn't want to go out there when his vision is impaired and potentially lose a fight that was shaping up to be difficult."
The reality is, if you can't see...
Tell the truth.
If you can't see, you're allowed to say you can't see. People might point at me and say, well, you fought with one eye. Yeah, that was a secret because I shouldn't have been fighting. You know, Tom is the champion of the world. He doesn't want to go out there when his vision is impaired or vision is massively affected and potentially lose a fight that was shaping up to be a difficult fight.
Even the analysts noted that this wasn't a one-sided beatdown. Yes, Tom had a bloody nose. Yes, Gane was fighting well, but Tom was landing nasty shots too. The fight was competitive, and there's no evidence that Tom was looking for a way out, as some suggested. The betting odds tell the story. Tom opened as a 3.5 to 1 favorite. After this incident, odds makers are suggesting the rematch could be close. Gane might even become the favorite. That's not because Tom quit. It's because the narrative around him has been unfairly damaged.
Ladies and gentlemen, referee Jason Berzon from this contest at 4 minutes, 35 seconds of the first round. We were at final now. This fight is declared no contest.
I'm here with Tom. First, just weeks before UFC 321, Tom appeared on the XTSN Gigs podcast and said something that clearly irritated Dana. Tom's friend and training partner, Ante Delia, had just entered the UFC's heavyweight top 10. Tom said if Delia ever fought his way to a title shot, Tom would vacate the belt rather than fight his friend. Tom explained, "If I'd never won a title, I'd be like, we have to fight because that's my dream. But now I've done it. I'd vacate IT, and he can have his time. I wouldn't fight him. No chance. He's one of my genuine friends. There's some stuff to me that's more important than money and titles."
So the thing is, if I'd never won a title, I'd never touched gold before, I would we would have to fight because that's my dream.
Yeah.
But now I've done it, I would be like, I'll vacate it and he can have his time.
Fair. Really? So if it comes to it, you're just not fighting him?
I wouldn't fight him. No chance.
Fair.
No chance.
Damn. Fucking
no.
Props.
That's
really?
Yeah. That's, so I've got guys who I train with, of course, and I've trained with them for years and stuff. And I've got other guys who are my genuine friends.
Yeah.
And he's one of my genuine friends. I would never there's some stuff to me that's more important than money and titles. And like I say, I've won the title. I've done that.
Second, Tom's father and head coach, Andy Aspinall, gave an interview during Fight Week where he revealed his desire for Tom to finish his UFC contract and move to boxing, where bigger paydays would be waiting. This isn't new, Andy has said this before, but the timing raised eyebrows. Some speculated the UFC might delay Tom's final fight out of spite, as they've done with other fighters wanting to leave.
He has an average fight time of 2 minutes and 19 seconds. You even said in the documentary recently.
Every fight we say, go out, enjoy it, try and do 3 rounds if you can. Let everybody have a good look at you and show what you can do.
Do you want the world to see what your son can do in the octagon?
I'd like people to see that he's a good martial artist, but he doesn't get to show that very often. And as a consequence of that, they just say everybody's in the heavyweight division, which they're probably not. So I'd like it different this time. Show the world that the heavyweight division is not. There's some good fighters in the heavyweight division who Tom's happened to have hit before they've hit him.
So when the eye poke incident happened, it seems like Dana's frustration with the Aspinall camp finally boiled over. Here's the thing. This isn't the first time Dana White has turned on a fighter who dared to question him or hint at leaving. Tom Aspinall had been the perfect company man. He took a world title fight on 2 weeks' notice. He weighed in as the backup fighter for the John Jones versus Stipe Miocic fight. He defended his interim title when almost no one else would. He sat out for 15 months waiting for John Jones to make a decision, only for Jones to retire. The most heartbreaking moment came from Tom's father, Andy Aspinall. In footage that emerged after the fight, you can hear the genuine fear and concern in Andy's voice. He said, "It might be that he lost his eye." It's just a horrendous thing to think as a parent, really. If it's just your son, and they could lose an eye, and their health, and they've got children to look after, something needs to be done about it.
Mike Bisping, he lost his eye. And it's just a horrendous thing to think as a parent, really. And I know what it's like these days with people saying what they want, but if it's just your son, and they could lose an eye, and their health, and they've got children to look after, you know, something needs doing about it. Yeah.
Tom Aspinall just dropped a bombshell message to Cyril Gane ahead of their UFC 321 title clash, claiming he holds one major advantage that could change everything. Alexander Volkov, who's fought both men, just gave his prediction. All right, let's start with the champion himself, Tom Aspinall. The British heavyweight is set to defend his title for the first time as the undisputed champion at UFC 321 in Abu Dhabi on October 25th, and he just revealed what he believes is his biggest advantage over not just Cyril Gane, but the entire heavyweight division.
I think if I hit anybody, I can knock anybody out. And I think that Cyril is no exception, but obviously there are some weaknesses in his ground game that we've seen, but I'm sure he's improved. Do you know what I mean? This is an MMA fight. It can go anywhere, so I'm sure we'll both be ready for anything.
Aspinall claims that because his fights end so quickly, we're talking an average fight time of just over 2 minutes. His opponents have barely any footage to study. Think about that. This is his 10th UFC fight, but he says people have only seen 10 to 20% of what he can actually do. In his own words, "If I can go through my career and nobody is seeing me do anything, that's ideal for me because each long fight, the opponent gets to see more and more. Right now, I've got a lot of UFC fights, but people have only seen 10 to 20% of what I can actually do. And that is just a massive advantage."
Cyril tweeted that he thinks you should be careful what you wish for, and he'll see you in Paris. How do you think you match up against Cyril?
I better be careful, apparently. Yeah. I think I match up pretty well against him. I think I'm equally as fast as him. I move equally as well. The difference is I can grapple. I've got a lot of power. And I think that's pretty undeniable at this stage of my career. I've got a lot of knockouts on my record, mate. I have to touch you once, and I wasn't even throwing heavy tonight. I thought it was going to be a 5-rounder. I didn't mean to knock him out. I was pretty sure that that was going to be a 5-round fight tonight, and just takes one shot, mate, at heavyweight, especially with me throwing him.
Let's put this in perspective. Aspinall needed just 60 seconds to destroy Curtis Blades in their rematch last summer. 60 seconds. That's not even enough time to grab a beer from the fridge. So while guys like Cyril Gane have hours of footage showing their techniques, patterns, and habits, Aspinall is basically a mystery wrapped in an enigma. That's terrifying for any opponent. But wait, it gets better, because Aspinall isn't just talking strategy, he's playing mind games with Gane. And honestly, it's pretty savage. Cyril Gane recently appeared in 2 movies, KO, which came out this summer, and Den of Thieves 2 with Gerard Butler at the beginning of the year. Now, there's nothing wrong with fighters expanding their brand, right? Well, Aspinall thinks otherwise. The British champion took a shot at Gane's commitment, saying, and I quote, "I wouldn't do a Netflix documentary for $50 million while I'm still actively fighting. No chance, you couldn't pay me enough money to do it. I'm 100% committed to my craft. 100%, $50 million. And he'd turn it down. That's the level of dedication we're talking about here." Aspinall is basically saying, while you were on movie sets, I was in the gym preparing to destroy you. That's the championship mentality right there, folks. But is it just talk? Or does Gane have something to prove? We'll find out in less than 2 weeks. Now, here's where it gets really interesting. Alexander Volkov, the number 2 ranked heavyweight contender, has fought both Aspinall and Gane, so he's got the inside scoop, the first-hand experience, the knowledge that nobody else has. And his prediction? It's complicated. Volkov calls it a straight-up 50-50 fight. He acknowledges that Gane has incredible movement, great leg work, and has dramatically improved his grappling game. But, and this is the key, when asked who looks better, Volkov said, and I quote, "On paper, when I fought both of them, Tom Aspinall looks better."
50-50, I think. 50-50.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Both of them are good, and Cyril Gane he's really good on his movement, on his legs and everything, and he's not so bad at grappling now. He starts working a lot on his grappling and his ground skills. So I think it's 50-50. It depends how fight starts, how both of them will be prepared to the fight for each other, and I saw that Gane will be motivated a lot to the fight to get the belt. It's 50-50, but on the paper, when I fought with both of them, Tom Aspinall looks better.
But then he added, in the fight, it could go either way.
But in the fight, it could be like in any ways.
Let's break down Volkov's experience with these guys. He fought Gane twice. June 2021 and UFC 310, losing both times by decision, with the second being a razor-thin split decision. He fought Aspinall at UFC London in March 2022. He's still giving Aspinall the edge on paper. That tells you everything you need to know about how dangerous the British champion really is. Aspinall recently made a bold statement about his training partner and genuine friend, Ante Delia, who just made his UFC debut and beat a top 10 opponent at UFC Paris last month with a brutal stoppage. Aspinall said that if Delijah works his way up to a title shot, which could be just 2 to 3 wins away, he would vacate the belt rather than fight his friend. Let me repeat that. The heavyweight champion of the world would give up his title rather than fight his training partner. In his words, "If I never won a title, I never touched gold before, we'd have to fight. Because that was my dream. But now that I've done it, I'd vacate and he could have his time. I wouldn't fight him. No chance. He's one of my genuine friends, and there's some stuff to me that's more important than money and titles."
So the thing is, if I'd never won a title, I'd never touched gold before, we would have to fight, because that's my dream.
Yeah.
Well, now I've done it, I would be like, I'll vacate it and he can have his time.
Really? So if it comes to it, you're just not fighting him?
I wouldn't fight him. No chance. No chance.
Damn. Fucking
No.
props.
That's my
really?
Yeah. That's, so I've got guys who I train with, of course, and I've trained with them for years and stuff. And I've got other guys who are my genuine friends.
Yeah.
And he's one of my genuine friends. I would never there's some stuff to me that's more important than
And speaking of training partners, Aspinall also trains with Phil DeFries, who was cut from the UFC over a decade ago, but has gone on to record 12 consecutive heavyweight title defenses in KSW. That's the level of talent Aspinall surrounds himself with daily. Now, we've got to talk about the elephant in the room, or should I say the GOAT in the Twitter feed. So let's break this down. What do we actually have here? Aspinall's advantages. Lightning fast finisher with minimal tape to study 100% focused on fighting, no distractions. Home advantage with the British fan base. Currently ranked number 8 pound-for-pound momentum as the newly crowned undisputed champion, gains advantages. Former interim champion with title fight experience. Vastly improved grappling game, exceptional striking and movement. Highly motivated to reclaim championship status. Experience against top-level competition. What do you think? Is Aspinall's secret weapon enough to defend his title? Or will Gain's improved ground game and motivation shock the world? Drop your predictions in the comments below. If you enjoyed this breakdown, smash that like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and hit that notification bell so you never miss our fight coverage.
So surgery is everywhere, every time around us. So no worries, Thomas Pinal, you're gonna come in back stronger. Really, my man.
Okay.
Cyril Gain's shocking statements about his preparation for UFC 321, how Jon Jones inadvertently helped him get ready for Tom Aspinall, and the massive bombshell message Bonga Man just sent to the British heavyweight champion. Plus, we'll cover Aspinall's response and what his training partners are saying about this massive showdown. On October 25th at UFC 321 in Abu Dhabi, we're getting one of the most anticipated heavyweight title fights in recent memory. Tom Aspinall, the current undisputed UFC heavyweight champion, will make his first title defense against former interim champion Cyril Gain.
Last minute. Last minute.
Now, here's where it gets interesting. This isn't Gainey's first rodeo when it comes to heavyweight title fights. In fact, it's his third attempt at capturing undisputed gold. His first shot came at UFC 270 against Francis Ngannou. That didn't go his way. His second came at UFC 285 against Jon Jones, and that one lasted just one round before Jones submitted him. So Gain comes into this fight with everything to prove. He's the underdog, he's faced criticism about his ground game, and he's got the weight of 2 previous title fight losses on his shoulders. But according to his recent statements, he's more ready than ever before. Here's where things get explosive. At a recent press conference in Paris, Cyril Gain delivered a message that should have Tom Aspinall and his entire team paying attention. Let me read you exactly what he said through his translator. Sometimes life is a little bit strange because of some bad results, and then people think that you've never worked on your ground game, on your grappling. But believe me, as someone who's come from Thai boxing as well, I've got a team behind me. My coach, Fernand Lopez, we've worked on our ground game. These are experts. We know exactly what we're doing. Sometimes I've not been able to show it, and that's on me, but this time, believe me, I've been working, and hopefully I can show it this time around.
You know, sometimes life is a little bit strange because some bad results and then people think that you've never worked on your ground game, on your grappling. But believe me, as someone who's come from Thai boxing as well, I've got a team behind me by my coach, Fernand Lopez. We've worked on our ground game. These are experts. We know exactly what we're doing. Sometimes I've not been able to show it, and that's on me. But this time, believe me, I've been working, and hopefully I can show it this time around.
But here's the twist that nobody saw coming. Cyril Gain is actually thanking Jon Jones for his loss at UFC 285. Now that might sound crazy, but hear me out. Gain recently explained that facing John Jones in such a high-pressure environment actually made preparing for Tom Aspinall easier. He said, and I quote, "All of that, the conference, the media, everything is heavy for the fighter. I remember against Francis, it was so heavy. It was not easy. Against John Jones, it was easier. So I'm sure for the next one, it's going to be easy.